Closing out our discussion on the Psalms and dealing specifically with the role that Torah and to another extent also the covenant plays, instead of dealing broadly here in my discussion with the Torah and all the Psalms, because it's a significant theme. I want to start with Psalm 1 and really look at it a little bit more closely, because I think Psalm 1 gives a very good encapsulation, and as some of you even pointed out, of the function and role of Torah in the Psalms. Psalm 1 is an introductory psalm. It along with Psalm 2, can serve as an introduction to the Psalms as a whole, to kind of introduce these Psalms and the main themes that come out. And of course, we see in Psalm 1 this focus on what's translated as the law of Yahweh. Could better be translated as the Torah of Yahweh. I like translating Torah as Torah, because when we see law, we tend to think in a Western 20th century, 21st century perspective of laws and rules and regulations. But of course, Torah is much more than that. A better translation for Torah would be instruction. When we're talking about Torah, the Torah of Yahweh, it's the instruction of Yahweh, not just the legal material. And so if we look at Psalm 1, how blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. Here we see a really good parallelism of three actions that are parallel to one another of what a person should not do. Now, contrasting that with is the simple line in verse 2, but his delight is in the what's translated law, could be called the Torah of the Lord. And in his Torah he meditates day and night. And that is essentially what the psalmist is saying, is that there's a contrast between two types of people. This could be called a wisdom psalm, in the sense that it's portraying, this path of wisdom, path of foolishness. Although it doesn't use that exact word, it does set up these dual paths here. It could be called a Torah psalm as well, more particularly. But saying that a person who doesn't walk in the counsel of wicked, stand in the path of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers, is contrasted with the person who delights in Yahweh's Torah and meditates on that day and night, who puts his Torah always before him. He'll be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and in whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but they are like chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked perish. And basically this is setting up two ways, two paths, which is common in a lot of wisdom literature, and also here in the Psalms, is the way of the righteous versus the way of the wicked. The way of the wicked is sitting, all the stuff that's talked about in verse 1, and that path leads to death. It's like chaff, will not stand in the judgment. But the way of the righteous is characterized not by scoffing or mocking or anything like that, but it's characterized by meditating and delighting in the Torah of Yahweh. And it's this idea that the Torah is what provides life to the righteous man. And it really corrects for us a misunderstanding of what Torah is, in the sense that we tend to look at the Torah as the law and as a bad thing that we should be away from. Well, no, even Paul says that the law is good. It's when it's used correctly, it's used and understood as instruction, not as a way to earn righteousness, but as a way to instruct us in how we are to live as people who are righteous, who are called from God. Then we understand its true purpose, and we delight in it, and it gives us life. And this is something that the Psalms over and over and over again, of course, Psalm 119, very most famous, talks about, and I think that it should be something that we should focus a little bit more on, this idea of the role and function of Torah in the life of the believer, in the life of the person of God, because the Psalms present Torah as the way of life. And I think that we should look at it that way too, not as an earned righteousness, but rather as a response to God's salvific actions in our life, that we delight in His Torah, we delight in His instruction. And that's why we study His Word, all of it, not just the New Testament, but the whole counsel of God as the Torah and instruction of the Lord. And this is something that the Psalms celebrate greatly. and we should too.